Referrals can be a great way for you to find a contractor for your next property rehab project. So then, why do I hate referrals so much? Well, I'll tell you why. Because time and time again, I've seen real estate investors use referrals as a shortcut and skip the qualifying process that they should be doing before they hire any contractor for their property rehabs. It pisses me off when I see people using the path of least resistance and it costing them in the end. I don't want that for you. I don't want to see you lose your hard-earned money and waste your precious time on a contractor because you skipped the vetting process like so many real estate investors that I've seen online. You should not be taking contractor referrals at face value. So in this episode, I'm going to go through the steps that I use to make sure that any referrals I receive are properly vetted by asking 5 basic questions. What are these 5 basic questions? I guess you're going to have to stick around to find out. Let's go. Welcome to episode number 4 of the Real Estate Rehabbers Podcast. I am your host, Michael Emanuele, a.k.a. the Real Estate Rehabber. Today, I'm going to be talking about contractor referrals and why I hate them so much. Now, referrals are a great way to find contractors for your property rehabs. And it's one of the 8 different ways that you can find contractors that I mentioned in episode number 3. But just because you receive a contractor referral from someone does not mean that those contractors get to bypass the pre-screening and qualification process. You should never be hiring a contractor based solely on a referral, no matter how trustworthy the source is or you believe them to be. It's very easy to fall into the trap of relying on personal connections, but doing so could mean putting your property rehab at risk. That is why I'm so adamant that you take the time to vet every single contractor, no matter how credible the source of the referral is. There's this saying that I learned from a very experienced real estate investor, and that is to trust but verify. But let me back up a step. Here are a few things that I've seen real estate investors do in Facebook groups and in different chats on Telegram and WhatsApp. And please do not do this if you're asking for a referral. First, if you're going to ask for a specific referral, make sure that you're providing some context, some information to the group that you're asking the question. Do not just say, I'm looking for insert specific contractor here. If that's a plumbing contractor, electrical contractor, and so on. You want to say, this is the kind of contractor that I need. Here is where my project is. Here's a little bit about the scope. Here's the timeline that I'm looking for. Do you have any recommendations that fit the bill? Never just say, I'm looking for a plumbing contractor. Because you're leaving it so open-ended, you never know what people are going to come back at you with. You could be getting a referral from someone and a contractor that's 250 miles away, right? Or across the country. Like, you have to be specific with these things. It always makes me chuckle, and it just kind of irks me when I see the lack of detail that some people provide when they're asking for help. I know, like, I've had so many people over the years ask me for help. I think I mentioned it in episode number 1 that the best skill that you can have as a real estate investor and as an entrepreneur is resourcefulness. So use your resourcefulness to seek out the information that is ultimately going to give you the best possible outcome. So the more detail that you can provide to someone about what it is that you're looking for, the more detailed and accurate of a response that you're going to get. That's not only in contractor referrals, but the same would apply to qualifying contractors. The better the questions you ask, the better the answers you're going to receive. That is one of the mistakes that I see real estate investors make. And the second thing that I see is that when they do see referrals come in from other real estate investors, other people, what are they doing with them, right? Obviously, I don't know what happens offline, but I don't see any real sort of discussion between the community members and the person asking the question after they receive a response. And I don't understand why, because when you have the ability to ask the person giving the referral, and, you know, I'm saying online, but whether that's someone online or a family member or a friend, someone that you've met at a real estate networking event or even another contractor, like you need to do a bit of digging and pry a little bit and find out more information to determine if it's worth your while to even reach out, because you don't know, especially online, what the intentions of the person who are giving you the referral, especially in Facebook groups. You don't know who they are from anywhere, right? Maybe you've seen their name pop up a couple times in other posts and things like that. But if you don't know them from a hole in the wall, why are you going to take their referral at face value? You don't know, they could be a contractor that is responding to you, or a family member of a contractor, or the friend of a contractor. They're giving you them as a referral. Meanwhile, this contractor is not is not able to give you the level of service, or is not a qualified, not a reputable, not a professional, not organized, whatever. So you have no idea what the intentions. Maybe they're receiving a referral fee from this contractor for throwing their name out there. Like, you really do not know. And so you have to be careful and trust, but verify. Always verify. Sometimes people also have good intentions. They think that based on their set of expectations, that the contractor was a good contractor. They did the work on time. They were on budget. They were happy with their quality of work. But their expectations might not be the same as your expectations. You might have a higher expectation on the quality of the work if you're doing a luxury flip versus someone who is doing a long-term buy and hold, and depending on the neighborhood that they're investing in, they don't require a high level of finishes. So they could think this contractor came in cheap. He did the work as he promised, got in, got out. They were able to rent. Amazing. This contractor's amazing. But that's not necessarily what you're looking for in a contractor. If you're doing a luxury flip, you want someone who's going to give you the best finishes, the best workmanship and quality, so that potential buyers that come through, they're going to notice all of these little things. Especially when it's a flip, people buy based on emotion. You don't want a contractor that's going to take shortcuts the same way that this example person wanted a contractor who could turn over a rental unit very quickly and get it back on the market, right? They're two very different things. So your expectations and their expectations are misaligned. And if you're taking a referral from someone with misaligned expectations, well, that's a recipe for disaster, especially if you don't go through the proper due diligence. But instead of vetting the contractor, why not vet the referrer first if you have that option? Before you get yourself into trouble, you have to verify. And I'm going to give you 5 questions here that you can ask any person that's giving you the referral of a contractor. Those questions are: what's the nature of the work that they did for you? If you want to dumb that down a little bit, what kind of work did they do for you? Did they meet your deadlines? Did they stay within budget? What did you like about working with them? And what could they have done better? Would you hire them again in the future? How was their communication throughout the project? These are just 5 questions. I could keep going. And in my book, Rehabber Secrets, I have all kinds of different questions as part of the vetting process. You could save yourself the trouble of reaching out to that contractor if you're able to get a little bit more information and extract it out of that referrer. It just saves you a step. That way you're not wasting your time, you're not wasting the contractor's time, and you can move on. So this podcast is a little bit on the shorter side, but I still think it's important to drive the point home that although one of the ways that you can go about finding contractors is certainly referrals, and it's number 1 on my 8 different ways to find a contractor list for a reason, but that doesn't mean you should take shortcuts. And I'm not saying you specifically, but people and real estate investors in general should take shortcuts to request for referrals, not provide enough information, expect to get good referrals coming through, and then not follow up with the person that's giving the referral to make sure that your expectations are aligned. That way, when you contact the contractor, you already have some information going into it, so you can do even more digging when you're finally speaking with them on the phone or emailing them or contacting them on social media. So don't make that same mistake that I see so many real estate investors doing, when they're asking for the referrals. It will save you a lot of headaches down the road. It is your job as the project champion of your property rehab to be both a leader and a manager, and leaders do not take shortcuts. If you want to achieve the best possible property rehab and minimize the amount of headaches that you have on it, you need to spend the time up front, putting in the work, doing your due diligence, doing the planning that is necessary to make sure that the team you are putting together and the people you are surrounding yourself with are the best. And again, I do not want to see you lose out on your hard-earned money and your precious time by hiring a contractor based solely on your trusting of the referrer. And that doesn't apply to someone online. That could be a family member. It could be a friend. It could be someone within your circle of influence. You still need to properly vet any contractor that you're going to be signing on the dotted line a contract for services with to come into your property and complete any sort of work. Because when they come in, if they're not properly vetted, if they're not properly qualified, and I don't want to use a bad word, but if they mess up, that's going to end up costing you time and money, frustration and stress about property rehabs that you could have avoided by doing the proper due diligence from the start. So use these tips in today's episode as a reference point. I definitely recommend that you go and get my book, Rehabber Secrets, which not only goes through how to question referrers, but it goes through how to find contractors, how to use my 3-step pre-qualification process to find out if they're even worth getting on the phone, then my elaborate qualification process that takes you through a series of steps and questions to ask to see if they're qualified to be working on your project. But then that's not it. Once you've qualified them, you have to have them do a walkthrough. You have to get them on site, give them all the details, have them put together a quote, know how to review quotes to make sure that you're comparing apples to apples, what you should be looking for on contract terms and conditions before you sign on the dotted line and start the work. So go get that book if you haven't already. I'm going to leave a link below for you to go and buy it on Amazon in Kindle and paperback format. I'm going to keep bringing you value every single week, and a lot of that content is going to be based on the book, but you could just go and buy the book now and gain all of that decade of experience that I have as an architectural technologist and a construction project manager, not only in my past corporate jobs, but now as a real estate investor and as a business owner who owns a construction management company that services real estate investors like you, doing renovations and property rehabs, building additional dwelling units. Like, I'm in the trenches doing the same thing. I'm practicing what I preach every single day of my life. This has been my life for the past decade, so I'm putting together this information to help you out, and I hope you appreciate it. And if you do, please subscribe, like this video, and I'm going to see you on the next one.